Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Erica Hackman and I help Nomadic Matt run the Nomadic Network. Before we have Christina share all her tips and tricks about Instagram, I am going to share with you a little bit about the Nomadic Network. And while I'm doing that, I would love for you to find the chat. And I'd love for you to say where you're calling in from, what number TNN event this is for you. And I would also love for you to drop in your Instagram handle, but it's in a specific way that you're going to have to do this. It's http://instagram.com/whatever your Instagram handle is. If you just do like at the Nomadic Network, it won't come up as a hyperlink. So just for the sake of ease, for everyone being able to find and follow you, just do it as a URL. All right, so I'm just going to introduce the Nomadic Network very quickly before we have Christina take over. The Nomadic Network was started back in 2019. It's the brainchild of Nomadic Matt. He wanted to really get the followers of his blog together so that we could share resources, so that we could travel cheaper, better, longer, and more. And one of those things that we wanted to do was get people together to meet each other and also get people paired up with like experts so that they could learn how to travel better, cheaper, longer, and more. And what happened in the middle of the pandemic, 6 months later, after we started the Nomadic Network, we switched to virtual because COVID happened and we couldn't have all of these live in-person events. And we thought that it was going to be not that great to be able to do virtual events, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we've gotten to connect people and travelers all over the world with speakers and travel experts all over the world. Currently, we have 3 different kinds of events. We have awesome presentations like this that Christina's about to give. We also have happy hour events that are either centered around being a traveler from a certain region or traveling around a certain region where you could actually meet other travelers. And then we have a monthly book club where we actually invite the author of the book to come and talk to us. So these are the events that we're offering. Just a few things to keep in mind. Number 1, feel free to turn your camera on. This is a community event. We love to see your faces, but you will be muted because there's over 100 people in here right now. Feel free to use the chat to connect, share your relevant experiences, and ask questions. I do ask that if you type in a question, you type the word question because I'll be going through and grabbing all the questions so that at the end, we'll have a community Q&A. Sometimes we let people unmute themselves. This one is too large to do that, so I'll be asking the questions to Christina. I also wanted to let you know that Christina and all of our speakers are always doing this out of the kindness of their heart and their passion for sharing their knowledge with you. For that, we are so grateful, and we really, really encourage you to follow them and connect with them and use them as the resource that we really want them to be for you. We're here to learn, satiate your wanderlust, and have fun. I would love to invite you to our membership community, which is the Nomadic Matt Plus community. I'll share a little bit about that at the end, but that's at members.nomadicmatt.com. And to follow us on Instagram at the.nomadic.network. That is all I have for now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just let you know that I am so excited about today. Christina McEvoy is on with us. She's waving right now, if you could see her.
Hi, everyone.
And Christina is a full-time adventure traveler. She was slow traveling across South America with her husband and 2 kids for the past over 2 years. And what did you say?
I said, yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5 years. So crazy. And she has partnered with so many major brands, including the Royal Caribbean, REI, Coca-Cola, Alaska Airlines, Booking.com, and hotels and tourism boards across the world. She is super passionate about helping people travel sustainably and helping families travel off the beaten path. And she also coaches other travel creators on how to get paid to travel. and has helped almost 400 members in her community make their travel dreams become a reality and work with the brands and destinations across the world. Okay, that is welcome, Christina. I'm so excited to have you here, and I will mute myself and let you take over.
Oh my gosh, I love seeing all the faces here. That was like, I didn't expect that. So I was like, wow, that's really cool to see everybody chiming in from. And I was watching the chat and seeing where everybody was tuning in from. And it looks like we've got people from all over. I saw somebody from Bogota, Colombia, which got me excited because obviously, like Erica said, we just spent 2.5 years in South America, and Colombia was one of the countries we were in for a while. So my heart is in South America. We're actually in Salt Lake right now. Erica didn't mention this, but we recently just finished our full-time travels 3 days ago. So it has like been a whirlwind, and my brain is like just all over the place. My emotions are all over the place. But we're happy to be back stateside for now. We're still going to travel a ton. Obviously, it's our job. So, but the full-time travels are on hold until our kids probably graduate from high school, because they're like ready for the teenage life, you know. They're ready to have a social life again. But welcome everyone. I'm so excited you're here. I just love the Nomadic network community, and I'm really excited to give this event today. Like Erica mentioned, pop your questions into the chat, because at the end, we're going to try and get through as many as possible. We probably won't answer all of them, depending on how many we get. But if you have a question that doesn't get answered, I'm just going to put this out there now. Feel free to message me on Instagram, because I love to connect with other travelers, and I love to chat and learn about you and what your goals are. So don't hesitate to message me on Instagram if your question doesn't get answered, or even if you think of something later and you want to chat, like make sure to do that. And I think she put my Instagram handle in the chat. So anyways, thank you, Erica. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to get started. So just give me a second. Okay, can you guys all see? All right, so thank you again for joining us. I'm super excited. I know you're going to get a lot out of this. And again, put your questions in the chat, because we're going to go through those at the end. By the way, since you're watching, I would love to know at the end of this webinar today, or this event, send me a message and let me know, after you watch this, what's the #1 thing you're going to change with your Instagram after this class? Because I always love to hear like people's aha moments, like, oh wow, I didn't know that I should be doing this. And so I want to hear, like, what are you going to change? So if you're up to that, message me on Instagram after this class and tell me what you're going to change. Okay, so this is for you if you want to attract and gain real, genuine followers that are engaged with your content and will stick around. We're looking to build engaged, real communities of people that are your people, you know, that are interested in the same thing that you are, that find value in what you share, right? So tell me if you're one of those people on Instagram that's like sick of seeing your numbers fluctuate up and down all the time on Instagram, like all the people that are like following and unfollowing still. I'm like, why are you doing this? This is 2021. Like, why are we still following and unfollowing people? But if you can relate to that, tell us in the chat or give us the thumbs up or something, because I know a lot of people are sick of that. This is also for you today. If you want to learn how to get paid to travel so that you can have amazing experiences and inspire and help your community to travel more. If you're like most of us here, probably going on a few trips a year isn't cutting it. You want to travel more because traveling is life, let's be honest. And once you get the wanderlust bug, there is no cure. I'm here to tell you there is no cure. But I'm also betting that you also love to help people travel. You also want to inspire and help your own community to travel more and travel better, like Nomadic Matt has. At least for me, I love to be able to do that. And it brings me so much joy when people message me and are like, thank you so much for your tips on this destination. Also, this is for you if you don't have hours a day to spend on Instagram or social media in general, and you want to learn how to achieve real results without wasting your time on methods that don't work. I'm going to go out on a limb and also say that you probably don't have a lot of time to spend on social media, especially if you're doing other things. If you have another job, if you have a blog, if you're building other platforms, your time is limited. So we're going to learn how to maximize your efforts so you're not wasting time. That's the goal. So hopefully that is you as well, if that's what you're here for. And I know Erica already introduced me to you guys, but I just want to quickly introduce myself again. I'm Christina. I guess I'm not a full-time traveler anymore. That's so weird to say that, but I'm still going to claim that title for a little while longer. But I'm also a outdoor and adventure travel expert and blogger and content creator. And I created what I call the Get Paid to Travel method to help travel creators and bloggers like you get paid to travel without necessarily having this massive audience or perfect Insta-worthy photos or spending hours a day on Instagram. For many years, I had this dream of being able to choose my own hours so I could quit my 9-to-5 job. I really, really wanted to be location independent and create consistent income doing what I love, which is travel. And of course, I wanted to travel as much as I want because traveling a couple of times a year was not enough. And most importantly, I wanted to be able to spend more quality time with our family, with my boys and with my husband. And so a few years ago, I started our travel blog, Adventure Together, and our Instagram account, which was focused on adventure travel for families. But I'm gonna be honest, after several months of working at it, I realized that I was really struggling to grow an audience. I was spending 4+ hours a day on Instagram, which is so embarrassing to admit that, but I was spending so much time on Instagram and I just felt lost. I didn't have a clear direction. I was really overwhelmed by all the things that everybody was saying to do. And I was confused by the algorithm. I felt guilty for how much time I was putting into it. Most importantly, I wasn't seeing any success in being able to attract brands, and which led to me just really being burnt out and wanting to quit. So after kind of going through this experience, starting my Instagram account and our blog, I felt like for the amount of time I was putting into it, like I should be seeing more results faster, but it wasn't happening. And so I was really just getting to a point where I almost threw the towel in. Maybe some of you can kind of relate to this if you are trying to grow it as a business, whether it's just the blog or you're pairing the social media with the blog. So tell us in the chat, like if you have been here before, because I know for me, for several months, this is where I did not throw down. As I mentioned, after almost about a year of going really nowhere on Instagram and just really frustrated with my results, I was ready to be done with it all. But I knew the leverage of social media, especially Instagram. And I knew that we could create additional income streams to complement our blog and leverage more paid sponsorships and partnerships with brands and tours and boards. I knew that if there was one social media platform to focus on to attract partners, it was Instagram. And so I eventually created, after a lot of research and homework and trial and error and just doing a lot of different things, I created what I call the Get Paid to Travel method, because I had to find a better way. I was super motivated to make this happen because, again, our ultimate dream was to be able to travel full time and create an income that would be able to support us location independently. So over the first few months of learning, testing, implementing my own Get Paid to Travel method, I was able to design my ideal life without adding more to my schedule. That's important. And while also cutting my time on Instagram in half. This was like a major breakthrough for me. And in doing so, and being able to do this and streamline what was working and cut out the stuff that wasn't working, the fluff, I call it, I was able to double our audience in a very short amount of time and also triple our engagement. But most importantly, we were able to have some successes. And our first big breakthrough, is what I call it, was when we landed our first paid collaboration with Royal Caribbean. You guys, we only had 7,000 followers, and we were working with a major international brand. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big cruiser. But when Royal Caribbean said yes, I was like, I'm a cruiser now. No, it was more just the opportunity for us to work with a major brand like this and be able to create content for them, because that's what they hired us for. It was a huge breakthrough, and it changed everything for us. And it was really that point where I realized that maybe I don't need to have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers to actually be able to do this and make an income out of it. And I do want to add that this wasn't just a press trip. This was a paid collaboration. So they paid for our entire trip. Plus we were paid 5 figures on top of that for the content that we created for them. So it was a huge eye-opening experience for us. And then by 2017, we were able to get more and more partnerships. We worked with many tourism boards in the States. This is before we started traveling full time, and other brands, especially like outdoor brands. And it was in late 2018 that my husband and I were both able to quit our day jobs and finally follow this long time dream of traveling full time. And now again, we're able to still work from anywhere and partner with brands and destinations all over the world. Also, I want to add, this has also saved us thousands of dollars in travel expenses, and created a consistent income for us to make our lifestyle sustainable. And even when the pandemic hit last year, which I know affected the entire travel industry, including travel bloggers, we were able to stay afloat because we had multiple streams of income. Even though we lost many of our partnerships and nearly all of our traffic from our blog during that time, we were able to pivot and work more with product brands and also past partners that we had worked with. This helped us be able to make some income while we were kind of trying to get the traffic back up and also get new partnerships and focus more on content creation. So we were actually doing more content creation where we were selling our photos and licensing our photos and videos to brands, which is like really good money. And so that was really important for us to be able to show Instagram as our portfolio to brands and tourism boards and partners, so that we could get more work, because brands need content. No matter if there's a pandemic or not, they need content. So it was a really awesome, we were able to pivot in that way and still be able to stay afloat and keep traveling. So our entire lives changed the moment we choose to pursue our dreams of traveling as a family. And the thing that I really want to like help people realize is that it's so much more possible than you realize. Like, we are literally just like your average family, and we're not famous. We didn't win the lottery. We didn't start our blog back when blogs were new and have this successful following. Like, we literally started a few years ago, and we've been able to accomplish so much. And it's so possible for anybody. So if we can do it, so can you. And that's really what I want to show people, is how possible this is. Hopefully you'll feel that way after today. So this foolproof method does not require perfect photos following. I literally did this in 2 hours or less a day, and you can too. But I was making 3 big mistakes that kept me stuck. So we're going to talk about these 3 big mistakes that you might be making on Instagram and how you need to fix those. The first mistake is that you think that you need to post every day on Instagram, which is going to lead to that maximum reach, engagement, and growth. I don't know if you guys have thought this or heard this, but a lot of Instagram experts or gurus, they tell people you need to post every day so that you can have faster results and growth. And I'm not saying that that doesn't lead to faster growth, but there are other ways that you can grow your audience, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And honestly, the thing is that posting every day, posting so frequently is time consuming, okay? Especially when you look at all of the different content mediums that you have on Instagram. Now you have Reels, now you have IGTV, you have Live, right? Who knows what else they're gonna add in the next year or two. And it can feel overwhelming and exhausting to try to keep with it all. Do you guys relate to that? Because I know I do. And honestly, I don't know many people that have time for that, to be able to post every day, to put all that time into that. So give us a thumbs up if you relate to that. If you are short on time, how can you make time for other tasks to build your brand or even work on your blog? If you're putting so much time into posting content on Instagram and making it perfect, it is so time consuming. And that doesn't even include engaging and replying to all the comments that you get, right? It's exhausting. And most importantly, I know when I was doing this, it left me little time to work on other things, like pitching to brands or working on my blog, or even just having like downtime. You know, what was downtime? I didn't know. I didn't have any of it. So let's be real. The process of posting can suck a lot of time. First, you have to choose a photo or create the reel now. And then you got to edit it. You got to put music to it if it's a reel. You got to write the caption. You got to get the hashtags. You got to post it. And then you got to engage and reply to comments. Now, imagine doing this every day, even multiple times a day. Nobody has time for that, okay? And you burn out. Trust me, even if you did have the time, you're going to burn out. I see this over and over again. So this is what I call the 80-20 rule. I didn't make this up, by the way. This is like a legitimate what do you call it? Like productivity formula, I guess. But this 80-20 rule, this is basically a proven principle that states that 20% of your activities bring 80% of your results. I mean, if you think about that, it's kind of mind-blowing. So this means if you focus on the 20% first and foremost, which are those few vital tasks that actually move the needle, you will see 80% of the results. And if you have time left over in the day, you can get started on the other tasks that are less important. You can take this for anything as in part of your business, whether it's your blog or social media, whatever. This applies to everything in business. So basically, the theory is if you have time left over after you've managed those or accomplished those most important tasks, then you either not procrastinate, you either discard the other tasks because they're not that important, or you outsource this or delegate it, or you discontinue. So once I realized this, once I started focusing on the 20% of tasks that actually move the needle, oh my gosh, my results skyrocketed. And tasks that I focused on that brought me results included pitching more. I started putting myself out more instead of posting every day. I started pitching more and creating content that is optimized to my target audience. I wasn't doing that before. Once I learned how to optimize my content to reach my ideal target audience, which results in more saves, shares, and comments, because those are the metrics that you really want to pay attention to, is not the likes so much, but who is saving your content, who's sharing your content, what's the quality of comments that are happening. And also once I established doing reels and collaborating with other accounts, and also some other things like batch editing, it was like, boom. So again, like focus on the 20% of tasks that are actually going to bring in the results, and don't worry about the other stuff that is just fluff, because it's not going to get you anywhere. And then you're just wasting your time. So once I started establishing this principle, I started posting less frequently, but still consistently, of course, that's still important. And instead of posting every day, I was posting like 2 or 3 times a week, which is manageable for most people. And then I put my efforts into those few result-driven tasks, like I just mentioned, like pitching and batch. I started getting more opportunities to work with brands and destinations, and our audience was growing. So it was like, boom, like mind blown. Okay, I guess I can get results without spending so much time. So posting more often does not equal faster growth. I know, because I used to do this, and I've seen it over and over again. People are posting every day and they're not growing because they're not putting their effort in the right thing. They're not putting their focus on the right thing. So you want to pay attention to those results-driven tasks first and focus on what your goals are, so that you can get to those goals without doing all the fluff and getting overwhelmed by all the stuff that's just meaningless. So it was a huge light bulb moment for me when I realized this. Now let's move on to the mistake number 2. This is engaging with your ideal follower one-on-one is the best way to gain the right kinds of followers that are stick around. Okay, this was a big one for me, because I was taught, or what I learned was engaging one-on-one with your target audience, whether that's through hashtags or similar accounts to yours and their followers. Like, this is how you're going to gain followers. Now, it feels like that's the only way to gain like real, authentic followers that are going to be connected to you. But this is really time consuming. And honestly, especially nowadays, you're going to see very slow growth if this is how you are trying to grow your audience. This is not an efficient use of your time. This goes back to that 20%. This is not going to be giving you that 20% of results. If you're trying to grow your audience faster, you need to be thinking differently about that. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. So there are 2 ways to grow an audience on Instagram. Don't laugh at my pictures, okay? But I like to have visuals because I think it just helps you visualize things better. So there are 2 ways to grow: the sloth way and the gazelle way. I'm not sure why I chose these animals, but I liked them better than like the tortoise and the hare analogy. So the sloth way is relying solely on methods to grow your audience, like posting beautiful photos, relying on hashtags, getting reposts from big accounts, and engaging one-on-one with accounts that fit your ideal follower. This is the sloth way. While these strategies can be valuable while growing your audience, they're not always reliable, and most importantly, they're not the most efficient. For example, there are a lot of really incredible, talented, amazing travel photographers that have beautiful content, professional photos. And you would think, why do they not have a big audience? Many of them do not. Why? Because they don't have effective strategies to get their content seen by more people. So if you're relying on just really good photos, that is not going to work for you anymore. This is 2021. People are not going to follow you just for your photos. There's got to be another connection. There's got to be a deeper connection. And we're going to talk about that more too. So if you are doing this, this is not working for you if you're just relying on your photos to get followers. And a lot of these people don't know how to optimize their content correctly and engage with their audience very well. So this is not a very good tactic. So how do you know if you're following the sloth way? Well, the first sign is your growth is slow or stagnant, okay? 2, it's hard to get new followers to stick around. And the last one is you feel like you're spending a lot of time engaging, but you're kind of struggling to gain traction. So don't you think that eventually you're going to burn out if you're following the sloth method? This was me a few years ago. And I've seen this over and over and over again with my students. So just remember, like, if you feel this way, it's normal. I don't want you to think that you're not normal. This is very, very normal. And it's so frustrating, I know. And it's a waste of time, honestly. So if you feel this way, know that there's a fix. And that's what we're going to talk about with the Gazelle Way. So the Gazelle Way utilizes a variety of strategic methods to build an authentic audience in less time. And on the next slide, we're going to cover some of these methods. Let's talk about 5 ways to grow your audience faster in 2021 without relying on one-on-one engagement or hashtags or these other things that are slow growth methods. The first is Reels. Now you might already know this, but I'm going to talk about Reels because if you're not utilizing Reels yet, then you are missing the boat. Because I don't know if you've heard, but Instagram is favoring video content, especially because they're competing with apps like TikTok. But here's the thing, it's not necessarily about competing with TikTok or other social media platforms. It is, they are noticing in the research that people want to consume video content. It's more engaging. People want video content more nowadays. Does this mean you can't share photos? No, of course not. Photos, but you need to be utilizing Reels because Reels is what the algorithm is favoring right now. People love Reels, and it is a great way to connect with your audience in different ways without it being like the static kind of flat one-dimensional type way. And it doesn't have to be fancy either. I want to mention that. But Reels are seriously all the rage right now. I have a student who literally went from 3,000 or maybe it was 4,000 followers back in March. She has 85,000 followers now in July, and that is from viral Reels. And she's a travel hacker. She's a travel hacker, and her Reels are about travel hacking, and they're super simple and basic. You're like, how does this Reel get 10 million views? But it's because she knows her audience, and she is creating that Reel that is going to target her ideal audience. And so she's just raking it in. It is amazing. And the best part about it is not necessarily the audience growth, is that she has a course that teaches other travel hackers how to get, how to travel for free, basically using points and miles. And she's making 10 grand a month already just from this increase in her audience from Reels. So you got to utilize Reels, I'm telling you. And it doesn't have to be every day, but it can be, mixed in with your content. So Reels is definitely a way to grow your audience in 2021. The next one is live rooms. Do you guys know what live rooms are? Live room, if you're not sure what that is, it's basically going live with up to 3 other accounts. So instead of going live by yourself, which is kind of scary actually, now you can go live with up to 3 other people. And guess what? That live gets broadcasted to all 4 audiences. So this means a lot more reach and likely new followers, especially if you're collaborating with other accounts that have your target audience, that have your similar interests in what you're offering your audience. And if you can provide value in that sense of bringing together these accounts, boom, it is like magic. I love doing live rooms, and it is so fun, and it is such a great way to build your audience. Now, the third method is through giveaways. If you do giveaways right, I know there's a lot of like negative talk about giveaways, but if you do them right with the right people and the right prize, This is a really good growth strategy that works well and is easy. Okay. You're not spending hours a day, right? Like putting this time into growing your audience. So we've had a lot of success with trip giveaways. We've done trips to Costa Rica. We've done trips to places in the States. We've done outdoor product giveaways. We had one giveaway that resulted in 5,000 new followers. That was a trip giveaway. So these are a great way to grow your audience if you do them right. I think that's really important to mention because there's a lot of really bad giveaways out there. And the loop giveaways, don't get me started with that. The next is features and takeovers. You can do a stories takeover with like another account where you feature each other in your stories. You could also do this with a brand that you've worked with, or a partner, or a destination that you've worked with. We've done these a lot, and it's such a great and easy way to gain new ideal followers. And the last one I want to mention here is optimizing your content. Basically, this means you need to be creating content with the right keywords, target at your ideal audience that results in a lot of saves, shares, and comments. What this means for you is that when the algorithm sees that you're getting a lot of saves and shares, especially, it's going to show your content to more people, which is going to result in a greater reach and new followers, okay? And it's gonna push your content into the explore page, which means a lot more traffic. So optimizing your content is really, really important. And you optimize your content by knowing what your ideal audience wants to know. You need to provide high value content. This isn't about you, this is about your audience. That is what we should be sharing, is what they want to know. Okay, the sloth way is keeping you where you are at now, but it doesn't have to be that way. The beauty of it is that you are never stuck permanently. You have a choice on where you want to go. So even if you've been utilizing the sloth methods in the past, that's okay. You can start fresh and start using the gazelle methods that I mentioned. So let's talk about the third mistake really briefly. Thinking that professional level photos are necessary to attract brands and followers. I know a lot of you are going to be like, what? But I'm a travel account. I got to have good photos. I'm not saying you shouldn't have good photos, but I think what we do is we see these travel accounts that have amazing content and massive followings, and we think that's the only way. That's the only way to work with brands and destinations. It is so easy to compare ourselves to everyone else and feel like, well, I'm nothing. Like I have nothing to share that is going to be interesting, provide real value. I know, because I have struggled with this big time. I still struggle with this sometimes, this whole imposter syndrome. Have you ever thought, well, I don't have anything good to post today, so I'm just not going to post anything? I mean, I know I have. I call this posting paralysis. And this is actually a sign of imposter syndrome, because you basically think that you're not the expert. You don't think that your content is really worth sharing. And that is so wrong, because you can't compare your content or your knowledge or your experience to others and think that it is not good enough, because it is. And there are people out there that will find value in your content. Trust me on this. There is space for everybody. That is the one thing that I want everybody to know. So just know that imposter syndrome and perfectionism are going to hold you back big time. And you have to realize that we all have our own unique strengths and stories and experiences and skills that are going to be valuable to someone and also to brands. So you just have to put the blinders on and focus on that. And just remember that you only need to be a few steps ahead of your ideal audience. I don't need to be Nomadic Matt. I don't need to be the top travel blogger in the world. I just need to know more than my ideal audience, which is people that are just starting out and want to know how to travel to adventurous destinations with their kids. You only need to be a few steps ahead of your ideal audience. So don't forget that. And comparing yourself is never going to do anything good for you. It is only going to hold you back and keep you from getting results. So while there are a lot of big and talented travel creators that have stunning content, that doesn't mean there isn't room for the little guys. Trust me on this. I have so many students that have small audiences. I have a student right now that is working with the tourism board of Croatia, and she has 6,000 followers. It's not about the followers. It's not about necessarily having the most incredible, mind-blowing images, because again, it is about telling a story, connecting with people, being able to share your experiences to help others do whatever you do well, right? And that is what we are looking at. And people want real now. That's the other thing. if anything, Instagram has changed in the sense that it's not so like surface level anymore. People want to dig deeper. They want to really feel like they're connected with you. And so if you're just sharing like beautiful photos in some destination, that's great. But like if you really want to build a connected, engaged community, you have to dig deeper. You've got to be willing to share that story. I could go on and on about that. So we're not going to go too much into that, but just know that people are craving connections and they want value. They want to see real. They don't want to just see like these fake, curated, filtered poses and feeds. They want to see real. They want to see the ups and the downs. Okay, the fact of the matter also is that brands and destinations are looking for unique voices and accounts of all sizes and different skills and experiences to partner with. Brands want authenticity. They don't just want perfect models or young solo or couple travelers. More and more brands nowadays want real people of all ages, skin colors, and shapes having real experiences. They also recognize the power of the micro influencer. So if you have less than 50,000 followers, you are a micro influencer, and brands see the power in that because they see how much more connected micro influencers are to their communities. They have much more engaged communities. And that is going to build more trust and convert into more customers. So brands really, really want to work. More and more brands want to work with micro influencers. And most importantly, brands want to hear your voice and stories and your unique experience and perspective on travel. So this is especially good news in the days of COVID-19 as the tourism is desperate for travelers and is trying to pick up again. This is where you come in, is because you can help increase brand awareness and promote their destination or their products or their services. It also means that many of these companies, they can't afford expensive content creators anymore. They can't afford to hire a professional photography team to come in and shoot content for them, or these big mega influencers that charge thousands of dollars for their services. This is good news if you have a smaller audience. And so you also don't need to travel far in order to work with brands and destinations. Companies, hotels, local tourism boards in your very own area need people like you to create content for them and share your experiences on social media and blog. Another thing is that if you are not traveling much, leverage your past travel content and experiences to work with destinations. We've done this. We actually pitched destinations that we'd already traveled to during the pandemic. And we're like, hey, we already have the content for this. And we gave them some ideas on how we could create or how we could share this content. And they were like, awesome. It was amazing. So you can leverage your past travel content even. It doesn't have to be like new content all the time. So this is another thing that you can do, and especially in the wake of COVID. So this is, for example, this is what one tourism board will hire for a professional content shoot, which can include photographers, videographers, models, equipment, travel expenses, licensing fees, the list goes on. Right. These fees are not cheap, and they literally cost tourism boards thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is where you come in, because it's not about having a big audience necessarily. More and more brands and DMOs are looking for people that can help them with photography, videography, writing, web design, graphic design, marketing, social media strategy, accounting, and more. So this is where you can come in, because you can offer an array, hopefully, of services to them for a lot cheaper than hiring for them to hire a full team to do all that. And so it's a win-win for both actually, for both of you actually. Okay, so I want to reiterate that you can still partner with brands and destinations, even if you're not traveling much right now. So I know a lot of people that are still kind of like traveling domestically, and that's okay. I've seen so many people that are leveraging working with local brands and companies and destinations. You also don't have to travel full time in order to get paid to travel. I think there's a big misconception that like in order to be a legit travel writer, you need to travel full time, and that is not true either. There are so many different ways to do this. And I just hope that you guys gain out of that from this experience. Is hoping you know that you don't have to be a full timer. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to craft the perfect pitch. And so these are some of the things that I think really help to make your pitch stand out. The first one is having a unique angle. Okay, so for example, like for us, for example, our angle when we were traveling South America was like, we are these adventure travel experts that we focus on kind of off the beaten path destinations for families. And we also focus on sustainability. We're really big into ecotourism and working with local tourism operators and just really supporting the local communities. And so that was kind of like our angle, and that really resonated with the right brands. And so having a unique angle and being passionate about that is really important. It's going to really help you stand out. The next one is aligning with the brand. This is so important. I'm not going to reach out to Hilton or Marriott because that doesn't align with us. I'm not saying anything bad about Hilton or Marriott, but we work with like small boutique hotels, eco lodges. That is the kind of places that we love to stay at, because again, we really support eco and tourism and sustainability. And so again, you want to make sure you're aligning with them. If you are a budget traveler and your audience is budget travelers, you're not going to pitch a luxury 5-star hotel that costs thousands of dollars a night, because that does not suit your audience, doesn't fit your audience, it doesn't fit your brand. It is not going to be a win-win-win. You want to create a win-win-win between you, the brand, and your audience. And that's the triangle, I call it, where that's going to be the perfect marriage for a perfect partnership. The next one is highlight your work and or past experience, whatever that is. Even if you don't have a lot of experience yet, you can highlight examples, whether that's your writing example, writing samples from your blog, or maybe you've written for other blogs. You can highlight that. You can highlight your content on Instagram if you're kind of going after the photography angle. Whatever that is, highlight your work and or past experience. That's kind of a no-brainer. The next one is make it about the brand, not you. This is so important. And one of the biggest mistakes I see in people's pitches is that they make it about them. What can you do for me? This is what I want out of it. You know, no, that's going about it the wrong way. You need to make it about the brand, what you can do for them. And if you make it about them and you're there to serve them, then bam, you got an in right there. Okay, the next one is prove your ROI. So you want to be able to prove your return on investment. And the best way to do this is testimonials, whether that's testimonials from readers, from your blog, whether that's testimonials from maybe people that have messaged you on Instagram and are like, hey, thank you so much for sharing about this hotel, because I booked that hotel and it was amazing. It's like, boom, save that DM, because those are powerful at showing a brand destination that you have influence, that your audience actually takes your recommendations. So these are so powerful. And the last tip that I have here is follow up, follow up, follow up. Most people, they throw out a pitch and they don't hear back and they think they're not interested. Maybe they might follow up one time. That is not going to cut it. So many times I have pitched and maybe emailed them 5 times before I got a response. And guess what? Your persistence will pay off. Even if they say no, even after a few follow-ups, you have already showed that you're persistent and that you really want to work with them. And that's your opportunity to create a relationship with them, which is going to hopefully turn into a partnership down the road. This has happened to us so many times. We've gotten to know it first, but the follow-up and the nurturing the relationship has helped us gain their trust and their partnership down the road. So I hope you guys are taking notes on all this, because I'm giving you a lot, but we're almost done. So here's an example. I mentioned earlier that we had landed our first media trip with Royal Caribbean. We made 5 figures on this contract. And this, honestly, this partnership opened up our eyes, and it just made us realize that we didn't need to have this massive audience to start partnering with brands and getting paid to travel. Royal Caribbean hired us because they liked our style, our personalities, and our content. They liked us because we were a real family sharing a relatable, authentic experience. So again, it's not about having this massive audience. We have to get that out of our heads. So know this, you already have what it takes within you. It's not always about being the best photographer or having the highest numbers or engagement rate or whatever. You just need to know how to leverage your strengths to be an asset to a brand. So who believes that you can get paid to travel without perfect photos or a big following or spending the hours a day on Instagram? Type in yes or no, because I would love to see. Okay, awesome. So it's time for you to stop wasting your time on Instagram and start using it as a tool. Leverage it as a tool to get paid to travel, whether you have a blog or not. I obviously it's good to have both, but even if you don't have a blog yet, you can do it without a blog. We had our first year, we didn't have a blog yet. And so it's absolutely possible even without a blog. So I wanna let you guys know about this free masterclass that I offer that includes what we covered today, but actually a lot more, because obviously we had to shorten it today because we're gonna do a Q&A here pretty soon. So make sure if you wanna learn more, if you wanna see my whole get paid to travel method, you wanna sign up on that link on the bottom. That's maxexplore.com/nomadic network. I think Erica popped it in the chat there. In this free masterclass, I also talk about this #1 secret to really how to stand out on social media now, especially as a travel creator. You're going to learn how to grow your audience 3 times faster and increase that engagement. And of course, you're going to get my complete get paid to travel method. And if you're serious about making income as a travel content creator, I also have a membership program, and I'll link that in just a second. And we're going to go through, or I'm going to show you just a couple of examples really quick. So here's a couple of my students. This is Preeti. I'm not going to read it. You can read it if you want. But she literally went from like zero. She went from 35,000 to actually like 60,000 followers after like 2 years of zero growth. And a lot of that was because she hadn't defined her niche. So that was another thing that really helps, is that if you're struggling to define your niche, it can really help you to grow your audience once you really hone in on that ideal audience and optimize your content. So she was able to not only like double her audience, but she's actually worked with Visit California multiple times in this last year. She's had multiple press trips, paid trips in the last year during the pandemic. So pretty amazing. She's one of my students. And then this is Sammy. Sammy's actually a RV traveler. She went from 8,000 to 30,000 followers in just like 6 months. And she's partnering with RV brands and even a movie network now. And she's doing awesome. She's getting multiple like 4-figure contracts every month with different product brands and some RV brands as well. And then this is one of my favorite students, Kaz. Some of you might know her. She's a huge travel blogger. They're the owners and founders of Why Travel Blog. They are Australian bloggers. They're based in the US now. She used to hate Instagram, and she used to just like, oh, I hate Instagram, it's the worst. And she saw no need for it, but she joined my community and has been able to not only see some success with her Instagram, but she's actually been able to leverage and negotiate higher rates with brands and tourism boards too. So this is Kaz as well, and some of you might know her because she's a pretty well. Make sure to connect with me on Instagram and introduce yourself. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I love to meet like fellow travelers, and if you have questions, of course, I definitely love to chat and answer your questions. And make sure to sign up for my masterclass if you want to learn more than what we covered today. Leah has that, or not Leah, Erica has that in the chat. And by doing my masterclass, you'll walk away with the complete roadmap that I give on how to get paid to travel without a big following, which is really going to give you more confidence to pursue your goal of making a profitable income as a travel creator. And lastly, like I mentioned, if you're serious and interested to learn to work with me and make a career out of travel creation, or as a travel creator, and work with brands and destinations, I do have a all-inclusive coaching program called Insta Success, and the link is there if you want to join, or if you're not sure, that's okay too. You can message me and we can chat about that and make sure it's the right fit for you. So anyways, thank you so much for being here and for sticking with us. I hope it was helpful. And I hope you guys got some, I mean, I know I threw a lot at you, but hopefully you got some good stuff out of this. And we're going to do a Q&A now.
Thank you so much, Christina. That was a ton of information.
I know, I'm like talking so fast.
Love it, love it, love it. I would love for you to just shut your screen off though, so we could see your.
Oh yes, face. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we are getting a ton of people just saying like, thank you, very inspiring. They're learning so much. And we have quite a few questions. So I'm going to try to go through them and clump them together if they're, the same-ish questions. So
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so Heather and Brian were wondering, how do you give away a trip, or how do you get things given, like donated to give away, or do you work with tourism bureaus to do that? Like, how do giveaways work?
That's a great question. I actually was thinking about that during our webinar. I'm like, someone's going to ask that question. So I was at a step ahead of you. Okay, a couple of things. Usually for me, I find the most success in pitching partners that we've worked with before. For example, we worked with several partners while we were in Costa Rica. I mentioned that we did this trip giveaway to Costa Rica. And basically after we worked with them, we had so many people, like especially this one particular partner that booked a trip, or not booked a trip, they booked it was actually a rental car company. They rent out expedition vehicles that are like totally kitted out, like overland vehicles. And anyways, we worked with this company, and we had so many people that booked reservation with this company that we're about doing a giveaway. Like, we have so many people that are interested in Costa Rica, and our audience is all adventure travelers. So I know this is right up their alley, and I think people will go nuts over this. And so then it was just a matter of, once he said yes, like we were able to put together a few other accounts that I worked with that were adventure travel accounts as well. And the four of us had a combined audience of maybe like, I don't really know for sure, but it was like around 300, 400,000. So they were part of this giveaway as well. And because of that, we were able to leverage our audiences together and have a really successful giveaway. So partners is how I do most of my trip giveaways. But I do want to say that so many hotels and brands are desperate to get their names out now, especially in travel. And so even if you can approach a company, even I would say if you're new, if you don't have any past experience working with brands, like pitch some small companies that are like struggling, or they're new, or they're just not the big that everybody uses, you know, and just approach them and just say, hey, we love what you're doing. I mean, of course, make sure that you align, you know, that's really important. And just say, hey, you know, we really love what you guys are offering, what you do. Like, what do you think about this idea? And you just pitch them idea. And of course, you bring in other accounts that you know can also align with that brand as well. Because if you're just doing a giveaway with like you and like hotel, for example, you're going to get some good reach, but you're going to get a lot more reach if you can use other four accounts. We different audiences, you know. We were the only family travelers. The other ones were like solo or like couple travelers. There was a couple of overlanders that like, that's what they do, is overland travel. But we all had adventure travel in common. And so it fit the brand, it fit all of our audiences. And because we were able to leverage all of our audiences, we had really great reach with that. So you can do the same thing when you pitch a company for a giveaway like that, is like, hey, I have some ideas on some accounts that would work really well, you know, with your brand as well. And combined reach, like, again, you got to sell it. Like, this would be our combined reach. You know, this is what our audience is interested in. And that is a great angle. You know, if you can do that, is like leverage other accounts to work with them. And then again, like, you know, just think about smaller companies starting out. Like, there's so many companies that are just desperate for brand awareness. And a giveaway for them isn't really costing that much, you know? So it's really just about establishing those relationships and aligning with them and making sure it's aligned with your audience, because that's really what's going to give you the most successful end result. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. And I love that idea of combining with other accounts, so that it's not just, you know, if you're under 10K, but you combine with a few others, then you have many thousands of followers that you're pitching. So that's awesome.
Careful, because most people don't want to have to follow like 10 or it's a lot. Like, you know, so for me, the best giveaways are like 4 to 6 accounts, you know, Because if it's too many, then your audience might not want to participate in the giveaway because they're like, oh, I don't want to follow that many accounts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just think strategically about it. But if it's a giveaway prize that people are like, you know, your audience is going to be into, like, it's going to be a slam dunk, you know? And that's the thing is like, if I do a giveaway, it's going to be a good one. And I want to make sure that it is totally aligned with our audience. Like, I'm not going to like, you know, do something that's outside of our norm, you know?
100%. And we also have Heather Young, who just wrote into the chat that she used to own a motel and would have loved to have someone approach her with this idea for a giveaway. So people are out there.
Oh my God.
She said used to own, so I don't know if you guys want to write to her, but there are people out there that want, you know, want people to come and bring exposure to them.
Absolutely, especially now, especially if we're talking about tourism, especially, you know, but it applies to product brands too, you know. I mean, we primarily work with outdoor brands because that's kind of our focus. And, you know, when I was first starting out, especially, I focused on pitching smaller up and coming brands that had really cool products, but nobody knew about them yet, you know, and they needed content. They also needed that exposure. So, you know, there's so many ways, and there honestly is, there's so much room for everyone. I can't even reiterate that enough. There is so much room. Everybody's like, it's so competitive. And I'm like, it's really not, because if you have a defined, like if you've defined your niche and your audience, and like you own that, like you can just find the right brands that are like, they just fit with that, and they will see that, and they will know that it's going to bring an ROI for them, you know? So it's just
100%.
research, you know, look at who the up and coming hotels are, you know, smaller boutique hotels, you know, whatever. You just got to do your research.
Yeah. I also have a question. It's come up a few times from different people, but they're wondering who you are supposed to look for when you're searching for someone to pitch at a certain hotel or brand. Like, what kind of job title are you looking for, and how do you find that email?
Okay, great question. So the short answer is, I'm gonna give you the short answer because I want to get through a lot of questions. Is my favorite method to get the right contact is to message them on Instagram. I do, because it's easy. I can just message them and just say, hey, we love your content, or we love your brand's mission, or whatever it is. You got to make it personal. We would love to collaborate somehow. Do you work with content creators? Who is in charge of media? You know, who's in charge of media or public relations, collaborations, you could say, who's in charge of collaboration? Say it, but I would say media, PR, marketing, any of those terms are going to work. And for me, I have the most success on Instagram. So yeah.
That seems fitting.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. You can cold call them. I've actually like called hotels up when I've not gotten their contact information through Instagram because they're not active on Instagram, or their website is like just like super outdated, or they're not answering on their generic email. And I just will call them and just say, you know, hey, you know, I'm curious to hear who does your marketing, and can we be connected with them? What's the email address for them? And that works a lot. Not for big hotel chains, I will say, but smaller companies and smaller hotels, absolutely calling them, just like cold calling. It's kind of scary, but I mean, do it. It can pay off for sure.
And if it doesn't, you haven't lost anything either.
Move on. Yep, exactly.
Taylor is asking, what is the format of your pitches? Do you do it via email usually, or how does it sort of look?
Yeah. So I include several pitch templates in my membership program. I have specific pitch templates for tourism boards, hotels. I have scenario-based pitching. So like, if they reply with this, you say this. If this is how you negotiate this, you know what I mean? Like, so I have specific examples, but basically to answer the question, I do all email pitches. I am not going to send my pitch in a DM on Instagram because most likely that person doesn't handle that. So you're kind of wasting your breath. And it's not the right place for it. So I always establish who the contact is first, and then I email them. And then again, it's just about introducing yourself, establishing what your unique angle is. I gave you guys some tips earlier in the presentation. And by the way, I don't know if Erica mentioned this, but there is going to be a replay sent out of this Monday. Right? Monday. So if you want to go back and rewatch anything and take notes if you miss something, she's going to send that. But yeah, I think it's establishing who you are, your unique angle, reaffirming that you align with the brand. So, you know, whether it's their mission, whether it's some products that you like, maybe it's a hotel that you really love to stay at because this reason, you know, it's establishing the connection. And then of course it's what you can offer, you know, and it's making it about your services and what you would like to offer them. Again, it's making it about the brand, not you. And then sending your media kit. So you have to send your media kit because that's going to show examples of your work, past partners that you've worked with. So that's the very short answer. but there's definitely a flow that I like. I don't think that there's necessarily like a right or wrong way to do it. Obviously, everybody has to adapt the pitch to work for them. But there is a specific kind of way to do it that you want to catch their attention from the beginning, because they don't want to just read a giant long pitch, you know, they don't have time for that, you know, so you do have to keep it short and concise, and you've got to catch their attention from the beginning, and you have to make that connection, you know, with them, align with them again, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation.
We've had a few people ask if you actually have to put photos of yourself on your Instagram in order to be taken on by a brand at all. Like if they just post pictures of landscapes and travel, like, is that okay? Or do they need to be a personality?
No, I think it's absolutely doable. I think you can establish yourself, for example, if you're a wildlife photographer, you know, or gosh, I'm trying to think of like another example, but because usually wildlife photography doesn't involve people in it, you know? But like, I think you absolutely can establish yourself, especially if you have a strong angle. But I do want to mention something, okay? And maybe you might not like this answer, but I will say that most people connect with a face. They connect with the person behind the brand. And if you never show who you are, then I think there's a level of disconnect there. And I think if your goal, again, we're going back to what your goals are. If your goal is to not just work with brands, but also build an engaged community, because to be honest, like that is, like, to me, that's the biggest reward of social media. Nomadic Matt has done, right? It's because you want to be able to connect and relate to people. And I think if you're never showing your face, I think it's harder to do that. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it can be done, but I think it's harder. And I think it just makes it a little bit more difficult to really build that strong, engaged community. Now, you don't have to necessarily show your face on your feed. You could show it in your stories, you know, you could show it in a reel. For example, we go back to the wildlife photographer example, like a great reel idea would be sharing behind the scenes of a shoot, you know, and showing him like with the camera, how he's shooting this grizzly bear or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that could be a really cool reel. And people love behind the scenes stuff, you know, they love to see what goes on behind that photo, you know, and that could be a way that you could show yourself and show your work in a different medium. Does that make sense? Stories to me are the best way to really draw that one-on-one, face-to-face connection. I know it's super scary to put your face on stories. I mean, I'm a total extrovert, and the first time I shared my face on stories, I was like, that was so embarrassing, and just I felt like I was just mumbling. But it gets so much easier, I promise, and people love it. If you go back to what I was saying earlier, people are craving real. They don't want to see this perfect, like, you know, perfectly coiffed person that just has it all put together. They want to see the messy. They want to see you mess up. They want to see that you're a real person. And I think if you can just be real and show that side of you, it just show that side of your personality, oh, it really draws that connection with your audience. I'm really big on that. So I don't know if people want to hear that, but that's my answer.
Perfect. Perfect. We've also gotten a few questions about how to price it out, basically. Like, let's say you want to work with a brand, like what is a good number? How do you figure out what to charge?
That is a really good question. It's also a really tough question because there are things that are, for example, the thing that is the hardest to price out is images. Because there's different levels of photography. There's different usage rights. Say a brand wants the usage rights to your photo for 1 year. Maybe they want it for 2 years. Maybe they want full rights for that image. They want to own the rights to that image forever. That is going to be priced differently. And then again, it goes back to the type of content, how much experience you have. So image pricing is much harder. And I actually teach that in my course. We have a whole module about pricing. But if we're going to talk about specifically social media, Instagram, for example, the general rule of thumb is, and this is the very basic like entry starting level, is about 100 per Instagram post for 10,000 followers. But, this is a huge but that is if you have, that depends on your content. It also depends on your engagement. If you have 5,000 followers, let's say you have 5,000 followers, okay? And let's say you get an average of 1,000 likes on each photo. That's really, really high engagement. And you can charge more than someone that has 20,000 followers, but only gets maybe like 500 likes on their photos. Does that make sense? So engagement is really more important to brands than the number of followers. And if you have a small audience, but really good engagement, and I don't just mean likes, I mean comments, people are commenting, you have people saving and sharing your content, that's your all engagement, like that is more valuable to a brand than necessarily how many followers you have. So you can charge more if you have a smaller audience, but really good engagement. And on average, if you have 10,000 followers or less, and you have 5% engagement or higher, that's really good, okay? Because the average engagement rate on Instagram is 1 to 2%. And that's average across the board. So again, if you have 5% or higher engagement and you have less than 10,000 followers, you can charge a lot more. You can charge double or triple. So yeah, it's kind of a tough question to answer because there's a lot of different factors, you know,
Right.
like I said. But again, if we're talking about social media, that's like the basic starting rate. And then, I mean, I have people in my group that, like I have a girl that has like 3,000 followers, and so small audience, and I would say like $300 an Instagram post, okay, which is really good for a small audience. But she has really good engagement and she has great content. She has really professional quality content. So she's getting paid $300 per post just for the Instagram post. For Reels, she's getting paid higher because Reels take a little bit longer to create. So I normally say double your price for Reels. And then she's also getting paid for the images. And she's charging like, I think she's charging like $250 an image for a 1-year license. So again, like there's a lot of different factors, but just know like, if you have quality content and you have good engagement, that's going to get you a lot farther than a lot of followers that have not really great engagement, you know? So It's the quality of followers, it's the engagement, it's the quality of your content. I know people that just create content for brands. They're not posting about it on social media. They're just creating content for them and they're getting paid for the images and the licensing for those images. Wow. So that's a whole nother, you know, whole nother thing.
Great. Oh, thank you for breaking that down for us. Also, we have a question about what you would consider yourself, self-employed. Would you consider yourself a self-employed contractor when you work with brands or something else?
Yep. We are a registered LLC. And under that LLC is our blog, also our social media partnerships, content creation as photographers. And then also I have my online course. So it kind of all fits under the umbrella of the LLC. And yeah, we pay taxes, you know, just like any business would do, take out money for taxes and stuff like that.
Perfect. And then is there a minimum number of followers you would suggest before you even start pitching, or would you just drop your rate if it's a very small amount?
If you have a small audience and you want to, my suggestion, well, first of all,
Let's
there's
say
no
500. Let's say you have 500
500
people
followers.
following you. Yeah.
Absolutely. You could start pitching. Absolutely. Absolutely. But you have to leverage your strengths. Okay. And your strength is obviously not the number of followers you have if you only have 500 followers. So you've got to leverage your strengths. If your strength is like, I have 20% engagement and only 500 followers, that's pretty good, you know? Or I have good content. I have content. I can create content for you that aligns with your brand, you know? So again, it's not necessarily about the number of followers, it's leveraging your strengths. And if you don't know what that strength is yet, you got to establish what that focus is going to be initially. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's photography, maybe it's videography. Whatever that strength is, you know, when you're first getting started, like for us, we leveraged, when we had a small audience, we leveraged our content, you know. We had a pretty engaged audience too, but I led with the content, you know, because I wouldn't consider myself back then, I didn't consider myself a professional photographer. I was always like blown away that brands wanted to pay us for our photos. I'm like, what? I'm not even a professional photographer. But again, it's the imposter syndrome that I just could not get that out of my head. But like, I led with that. Like, we can create content that we know aligns with you. Like, we're an adventurous family. These are some examples of photos that we can take. You know, and then of course, as I got more experience working with brands, I showed those specific examples or campaigns that we worked on. And that helped us leverage other opportunities. Does that make sense?
Totally. Totally. I just want to say, if your question didn't get answered, I'm very sorry about that. But also, Christina has generously offered
Yes.
to answer anything via Instagram DM.
Yeah, anything. I might regret that later, but I'm just kidding. I might not answer it right away. But you guys, my favorite thing to do is connect with people on DMs, because I love the one-on-one engagement and connection. So yes, please message me if you're like dying to ask me a question. Like, just message me on Instagram and I promise I'll answer your question as best as I can.
Perfect. 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 I'm going to share my screen for just another few minutes to share what's upcoming with the Nomadic Network. Christina, that was amazing. Like, so much information, so action-packed. And even somebody said, like, what did you even do before this? Because your presenting skills were amazing. So thank you so much for being on and for sharing with our community. For those of you who said that this was your first Nomadic Network event, I'd just like to direct you where you can find other TNN events. It's thenomadicnetwork.com/events. We have all of our events listed there. Here are just a few of the upcoming ones. And also, I'd love to invite you to join the Nomadic Mat Plus community. That's at members.nomadicmat.com. And that's where you can find all our past and future TNN replays. We also have personal stories not shared on the Nomadic Mat blog. We have input for the content that Matt creates, live Q&As with Matt and the team, free signed books, free guides, never before seen photos, an exclusive Facebook group, and access to our courses, and a bunch more things. We actually just started a monthly giveaway for anyone that's in that. And so for you to find out anything else you want about Nomadic Mat Plus, please follow that URL. And thank you so much for being a part of our travel community. It was really great having you. Christina, it was so nice having you on today. And I'm very excited. Please follow Christina, DM Christina, ask her whatever you want. I want to see everyone's Instagram just blow up after this. And I want you guys to spend much less time on it in general. So I hope you learned a lot, and I'm very excited for you to all implement this and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.